Okay. Hi, my name's Rory Mellis. I'm in CECS 174, Section 7 with Alex Nassif. So to explain the program, it's Project 5, by the way. To explain the program, I'm just going to go function by function, just kind of down the line. So, okay. So start with the first one, get Roman. Roman is literally just a function that's used elsewhere in the program to get an input. And really, this is all it does. So it gets an input and it translates that input to the uppercase. So if it's lowercase, it'll make it uppercase. If it's uppercase, it'll still run and make sure it's uppercase. And then basically I just have this while loop right here, which is running the isValidRoman function. So if it runs the isValidRoman function on the input and it returns false, this will keep running indefinitely and it will say, please enter a valid Roman numeral, and it'll keep getting new inputs, basically until this while statement doesn't execute because it returned a true value, and then it will return the input. It's basically just saying it's a valid entry. This function is not specified in the assignment. It's just kind of like a helper function for me. There's like one or two places that I need to use it. This is super simple. It's really just like checks what letter it is and it'll return the value. And if R is not one of these, it'll return basically false. Let's see. Okay, so isValidRoman. So this is my validation function. And I actually had like my program is not 100% perfect. I had some issues mainly in the validation function and these two translation functions. I tried as best I could, but I don't know, I've been struggling with this for a while and I can't seem to figure those two out. So the start of the isValidRoman is basically just checking if it's a valid function. And the way I tried to do it is I have three basically cases that as long as those are not filled, it should be a valid one. And so the first is I created this list with all the acceptable values. So the first one is going to go through the whole term, and it's going to check if the term it's going to check one by one if the terms inputted are in this list right here. So that's the first condition. If they enter a random letter that's not one of the ones specified, if they enter A or B, it will print or it will return false. The second case is if any anything is inputted 4 times. So like you should never do I for 4 in Roman numerals. It should always be like IV. So that's basically to check for that. And the third one is checking if really it's a pretty like specific thing. It's basically like for the number 8. So the number 8 should be V with 3 I's. It should never be IIX or like 10 minus 2. It should always just be 5 plus 3. And so basically if none of these are met, it will return true and basically saying it's a valid function. Okay, so here's my translation function. And this is numerals to numbers. So basically we're creating an initial value, which we will use later in this, and we're creating our loop value. So basically it will run through the empty string inputted as Roman for however many letters it is, which is just this while loop right here. And basically we're going to use the return num function and go one by one, return the numbers. And I don't know, honestly, I tried really hard to like to make this work, but I kind of just did this super simple approach because I couldn't get anything else to work really, and this just goes one by one, returns the letter, and the simple rule that like on like what action you take if the symbol is greater or if the symbol is smaller, and then it'll basically, after adding up the values, it will save them to result and it will return results as basically the output of the function. Arabic to Roman is pretty similar. I have basically a huge list of the Roman symbols and the numbers. And so first I'm creating Roman, basically an empty string. And so I'm going to use the if and while statements below to basically go one by one. And I'm going to use floor division and remainders to try and basically sort through it and figure out which letters are coming back. Arabic to Roman. I think, actually, yeah, honestly, I think I had pretty much equal trouble with both of these. Yeah, I don't know, because there's like obviously I could have literally just inputted every value from 1 to 100, but that's extremely redundant and not the point of the project at all. So I tried a bunch of different things and nothing really worked. So I kind of just went with my like base approach that works for most numbers, but not all. These super simple. They're 4 functions: add, sub, mul, and div, and they're basically just addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, addition, they're all pretty much the same, except for sub and division because they encounter negative numbers and decimals. So, so I'll run you through add. So first we're defining the function. We've got 2 parameters, so they're going to enter 2 Roman numerals. And we're going to convert those to numerical values. We're going to save it to num A, num B. We're going to do this in every function, or every like operation function, which is what I call these 4. So we're basically going to save those numbers, and we're just going to return those numbers added together. But then we're also going to run the Arabic to Roman. So we're going to convert the number back to Roman numerals and output that. So for subtraction, same exact thing. The only thing is we have to put this if statement to make sure that the first term is bigger than the second, because if it's not, which is basically met by this else statement, it will give us a negative value, and that's why there's this error statement here. For multiplication, like there's no possibility for negative numbers or decimals in multiplication, so it's literally the exact same thing as addition, but there's a multiplication thing here instead of addition. And then division is a little more complicated, but not really. It's the same premise as subtraction, where the first needs to be bigger than the second, not because it'd be negative, but because it'd be a decimal. But then we're also dealing with kind of 2 outputs, which is why we create this list result here. And so we're trying to find the first, which is I think it'd be called a divisor. basically if you did like 10 divided by 3, the divisor would be 3 and your remainder would be 1. So we're solving for the divisor. I think that's what it's called. And then we're going to output the remainder as well. And then we have a simple error function, like in subtraction, in case the first term is smaller than the second. Okay, this is our menu function. It's simply just to clean up the code. Honestly, if you really don't need this at all, you could just copy and paste this into the main function, but this just makes it a little cleaner. It makes it so that you basically just call the menu function. It'll just output ASMDQ with their kind of description of what they do, and then it'll just say, please select ASMD or Q only. Like this, the menu function doesn't take in any inputs or anything like that. It simply just, or it doesn't return anything either. It simply just outputs text. And then so finally we have the main function, which I mean, I think you know what a main function is, but I'll give a quick description. It's just basically the main function that all the other ones kind of feed into, I guess. So main is like I'm trying to think of like a good metaphor for it, but basically all the other functions exist inside of the main function, and the main function just utilizes those to really just make the code cleaner. So I guess just to start off, welcome, easy print statement. While true, this is basically setting up the quit functionality. It's basically just going to keep running through this until they enter a queue. And for quit, I could have just, I think, put maybe had like a variable, like while run is true, and then for queue set run to false. But instead, I just said true, so it will always run until the queue, and then I just put a break statement. Okay, and these are all really similar too. I think they're all pretty much the exact same thing, except for, again, division, which is the same thing too, except you just have kind of double the last statement since you have division and the remainder. So just simple print statement, enter the first numeral. We're gonna call the getRoman function. Another basic print statement is going to say your value. It's basically going to repeat the value back to the user and give it and tell you the numerical value. And it's doing this using the Roman to Arabic function. It's going to do the exact same thing for the second number. And then basically, so this section here, or actually really the whole thing, but especially this section here is the exact same for all of them. It's just getting the first two terms. And then these are pretty much the same for all of them as well. It's basically just a print statement of we're just outputting it in like a equation sort of way, saying like this plus this using text. So like we're not doing like an addition operation. We're just using it as a string value to like portray it, and we're actually adding it using the or subtracting or multiplying. We're doing that by actually using the calling those functions, which is like here, here, and so on. And then basically, since we're outputting it in numbers and Roman numerals, for the print statements, we're using a mixture of I guess we're only going one way here, so we're really only using the Roman to Arabic function. But to convert those Roman numerals into numbers, we are we're basically using a translation function. So these two the exact same, and we've got a continue statement at the end just to make it run, jump to the next body of code or block of code. So these are all the exact same: multiplication, subtraction, and addition. But if they enter D, oh, and I think I forgot to go over that, but these if statements are all just depending on the inputs, which is inputted up here, their selection. It's going to like output the menu and then take an input. And so depending on the input, it'll run A, S, D, M, D, or Q. So for D, it's just a little different. It's really this exact same thing, but instead of just a singular value, we're dealing with our result list because we have the division number and the remainder number. And then basically we're just going to have double the print statements at the bottom. So the last Q, the enter Q, it'll say thank you for using it, goodbye, simple break statement. This else is just in case they entered a different letter, like if they enter Z or R or whatever, it will say invalid entry, please enter a character listed. But notice that it doesn't set run to false. So the program will continue running. And then very last, we have our final line, which just calls the main function and basically just runs this whole block of code right here. Okay, so I'll do a few test runs, and I disclaimer, like my project's not working 100% perfect. Like the functionality of everything I think is good. It's just the translations, like the direct translations from Roman numerals to numbers is just not there. And I don't think my validation is not perfect either, because there's some numbers where you input it and it should say error as an invalid statement, but it doesn't. So like, for example, let's put, I think this was not working. If we put IIX, this should give us an error, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, it says 10. It's not working perfectly, but then let's just say, to keep it simple, we've got 10. Let's do another X, and it should just give us, yeah, X plus X plus X, 10 plus 10 is 20. Let's try the subtraction. Let's try C, hundreds, keep it simple, and then let's try let's try LX. So that should give us 40. Perfect. Let's try M. Okay, let's make it a little more complicated. See if it'll work or not. Let's try XXL. That can give us yeah, it's not working. That should be 30, but whatever. For the second Roman numeral, let's try, why don't we do let's try I. Get an error. It actually took in my values good, so I'm not sure where this error is coming from, but anyways, let's try it one more time. So here, so let's try I. So 4 I's. This should give us an error. Perfect. Please enter a valid numeral. Let's try V, which should give us an error. I don't even know why it's doing that. Anyways, I just want to get this over with. Let's move to D. Okay, let's try simple division. Let's try L and X. Then we should get 50. Perfect. Let's do another division. Let's do L. And then let's try 3. Perfect. 16 and 2. And then so see how it for division it'll display a total of 4 statements here. The remainder and the division both in letters, or both in numerals and numbers. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole program. I'll enter Q to show you that the break statement works. Boom. Thank you for trying out the calculator. Goodbye. And then we get the exit code message. So yeah, that's my program. It has some errors in it, but as a whole, it's working somewhat okay. I just I don't know why I struggled so much on the whole translation from numerals to letters. I didn't expect it to be as complicated as it was, but yeah. Anyways, that's my project 5. Thank you.